Welcome to Southern Florida for tonight's running here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Just 4 races left until the chase for the Blazing Pedals Truck League. Good evening, everybody. I'm Cade Corbin, joined in the booth by Derek Watson with our great producer Dustin Ellis behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, making us look and sound great here on Green Flag TV. The sun is setting over Miami, Derek, and we are about to see 135 laps around this very unique mile-and-a-half oval.
A very unique mile and a half, full of character, full of tradition, full of history, despite how, I guess, relatively new this track is compared to others on the NASCAR circuit, but a long night ahead for these drivers. We look at the schedule here. Here we are at Homestead. We go from a mile and a half to, it's funny, I think New Hampshire's a mile, but that's where we'll be next week for 150 laps. Then Texas and Martinsville. This schedule really is kind of unique, Kate. Look at this. Mile and a half, mile and a half, mile, or half mile, mile and a half. It kind of keeps going back and forth in the track types.
It really does, and that's going to test all the different kinds of drivers. You got to be good everywhere if you want to make that chase, go through the playoffs, and get yourself to the end of the season on top of the point standings. Here are those point standings, and after that phenomenal win last week out in Georgia, Cody Gibson's put himself on the right side of the cut line. He's knocked Logan Wilson out. As we're going to take a zoomed-in look at the top 10 this battle, not worried about making the playoffs. Most of these guys already in a very good spot on points, but again, after last week, Kilrow able to get the point lead. Everybody else pretty close. Dustin Ping, a guy who's going to look to make up a lot of points tonight. Just want to see if he can close in on that cut line. He's been good recently, but missed the first chunk of the season, so that'll be a storyline that we will follow here on this one.
Yeah, lots of great stuff up ahead here, and you see those point values and how they look, and I think a big push. We're not that far away from getting into that cutoff line mattering, Cade, where we get into that playoff push, and I think there'll be a lot of aggression picking up as we get closer to that line.
That's right, no win and you're in. It is all points. We'll take a look at the team standings. Just like golf, you want to have the low score, and MFRD has it, but it's just by about a point over Blackhawk. Five Kings still keeping it close. Those top three haven't been able to separate too much in the first chunk of the season. Going to be a fight all the way to the finale for those three teams as well. We're going to get set qualifying underway. We want to thank the Ohio and Indiana Roofing Company for helping us put the lights on. We also, of course, got to thank the Flying Pig Tavern. Got a couple of different sponsors on board tonight, but this one is the sister company to the Bruns Construction Empire, specializing in commercial industrial roofing. They're committed to accommodating to the unique needs of each client. They offer creative solutions to meet those needs as a team of individuals who work for the same common goals: professionalism, quality, and services. They offer preventative maintenance, new roof construction, green roof solutions, metal roofing, retrofitting, and all kinds of other things. So if your roof is damaged, head on over to oiroofing.com for more information. And we want to thank them for helping put this league on and keep the lights running, keep everything running behind the scenes for the Blazing Pedals Truck League. Going to be just a little bit before we're able to have a live look into qualifying. Drivers get 2 laps to set where they can, and track position really important here. As difficult as it can be to pass on the long run, you'll have opportunities, but you want to get yourself started off in the right place by qualifying well and being towards the front of the pack at the beginning. We're going to take a live look. I believe that is Noah Van Hoot there in the 00 truck. Been having some of his first runs of the season recently. Has kind of joined this league in the past few weeks, but put up some good numbers going down the back stretch, and we'll see where he's able to qualify. He might be one to keep your eye on tonight to run inside that top 10.
Pretty steady hands through the corner. Got that wheel held at a pretty good angle. Comes out of the corner, tracks it out up against the wall. Maybe can get a little higher in the next lap to get some better timing here. But you're watching Van Hoot here in the 00. Gets down to about, not exactly the white line, Caden. You don't want to get down that far at Homestead. You want to be typically a lane up off of the white line, but there's definitely more space to the right of that truck to get up against that wall.
There isn't, and that really shows you how many options you have down in turn 1. Depending on the track conditions, at least on the short run, you can paint that white line and make it work. You can run all the way up against the wall and make that work as well. Van Hout right there was about half a lane off the bottom, as you said, and that's another option. We'll see what he does down here. If it was intentional and he wants to replicate it. And instead, we're going to take a look back at Brian Zimmerman. Van Hout's lap, by the way, provisionally has him in the 7th position. So that was the completion of his qualifying effort. He's going to get dropped down to 8th with the lap by Scotty Stevens, as Brian Zimmerman going to complete the first of his 2 laps. We'll see what he does down here in turn 1. Looks like he's going to arc that truck in, and yeah, he's going to run essentially a lane off the wall. He might want to get just a little bit higher, I think. He might be playing it just a little bit safe, doesn't want to touch the wall, but he got the truck wrapped around that seam pretty well, and this is going to be, I think, a good lap from Zimmerman.
Yeah, it looks like it's to be an interesting line here. It gets a little lower to 3 and 4, down to that where I think typically you want to run just about a lane up off the wall. And again, these drivers, wow, look at all that space, Kate. And I just pointed out, because typically in these trucks, you know, the further you can track out in these trucks, the more speed you can gain up off those corners.
Absolutely, and I think just about all evening and all night, you're going to be fighting loose on corner exit. That's going to be something to watch. We'll see if Mark Arthur has the tail end of that truck step out. And I think it does just a little bit. Obviously can't see his hands, but from the onboard shot there, it looked like he was working the wheel to get that truck. And yeah, you want to use all of the racetrack you can, all the space to get it up to the outside. Right here, he's going to use a little bit more track compared to what Zimmerman was running, and that's going to slot him actually faster than Zimmerman, nearly a 1/10 of a second quicker than that 28 truck has provisionally slotted Mark Arthur to the 4th position.
Wow, that line through turns 1 and 2, I was really surprised with, or sorry, through 3 and 4 last time, and he touched that white line. Typically at Homestead, the trucks will get very loose down there, but let's watch and see how this run goes. It's going to go ahead and set a 33 something. That will not put him up front. Chris Carroll has the pole, by the way.
Yeah, Chris Carroll, Dalton Kilroe, the top 2 right now flip from where they come in the standings, separated by just 6 points. That battle closing up. A little bit of contact there for Chris Berg. That's going to be a 0x, so that lap is going to be disallowed. Berg right now sitting in the 4th position, so he's not going to be able to improve that. We'll see where Matthew Kleinschmidt slots in, and something I want to add, a whole lot of bonus points for the point leader when that championship playoff reset happens. 15 playoff points headed into the first round of 3 races. So Chris Carroll, Dalton Kilroe, and also Taylor Butcher Benjamin, all 3 of those drivers have a legitimate shot to grab that 15 bonus point. And they've kind of separated themselves at the top of the standing, but a good run here, I think, is going to put you in a great position to capture those extra points. Fleischman going to work his truck off the bottom, keep it steady, and that lap not faster than his first flying lap. So he is going to, at best, be on the outside of row number 4.
Wow, Kleinschmidt, that truck wiggled really hard, Cade. I mean, you talked about these trucks are going to be kind of loose up out of the corner all night long, and I think that was a great visual example of that, how that truck's going to wiggle. And you know, I always try to tell people, if we can see the wiggle on the cameras, that means the wiggle inside the truck is petrifying for these drivers. So, all right, well, qualifying is just about over here, Cade. I think everyone might be done a little early.
Looks like everybody's just finished up their lap, which means we're going to get to hand out the Short Stop Pole Award. For over 20 years, they have been serving Northridge's favorite pizzas, subs, and more. They have family-owned restaurants that take pride in creating delicious meals to bring people together, and they're bringing us together tonight at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. So we got to thank Shortstop, and I believe Chris Carroll is going to be the recipient of their pole award. We'll get that starting lineup for you in just a second. As qualifying has officially wrapped up, it is Chris Carroll on the inside of the front row. He's got the pole, and the current championship point leader, Dalton Kilroe, just a little bit slower on the outside of row number 2. Levi Allen, great qualifying effort for him. He'll be inside of Chris Berg, Echo Park Speedway winner earlier this season. Cody Gibson was last week's winner. He'll be inside row 3. Next to Mark Arthur, one of the best qualifying efforts of his season. Brian Zimmerman hangs on for 7th, starting next to Matthew Kleinschmidt in that 59 truck. And rounding out the top 10, it's Brian Dees, the gap finder, to the inside of Samuel Bumgarden's number 53.
And back in the P11, you'll find an 89 of Miguel Gomez Godet in that red, white, and blue machine next to the 22 of Scotty Stevens. Back in row 7, you'll find Eddie Hagee in the outside of the 91 truck, and he is next to the 25 of Rick Thompson. Back at P15, you'll find Brad Collins, and he is next to John Perkins in the 34. Back in row 9, you'll find Trevor Harmon in the number 16 truck in P17, and then Tanner Marr back in P18. And then back in row 10, that's Kyle Wellman, the Wild Man, in the 42, next to 00 of Noah Van Hoot.
Back in the 21st position, it is Mike Massengill. He'll start next to the 49 truck of Earl Hall. And then I believe we've only got these other 2 trucks in the field. This will be William Bruton and Michael Kelly rounding it out for us. A couple of drivers that did not put down qualifying laps: Justin Levine, Logan Wilson. And that looks like it. So it'll be 26 trucks potentially taking the green flag. We'll see what's up with Wilson and Levine. As Kilrow and Carroll on the front row for this one. The sun hasn't quite set yet. It likely will by the end of this race, which means the track temp is going to change. Conditions are going to be something that these drivers are fighting all night long.
Yeah, look at the clock there, 6:44 p.m. virtual sim time. Means we're not that far from sunset on July 26th. 89-degree track temp, though, Kate. I mean, all things considered, you said it will drop, and I believe it will drop some, but that's already a pretty peak track for a lot of drivers. You and I have definitely seen this track a lot hotter than 89 degrees Fahrenheit, so there's already a good amount of grip based upon that temperature. So that's a good starting point for these drivers in this race tonight.
I think that's something you've got to make a note of. You've got to know where the grip is going to be. Is it going to be up top? Is it going to be on the bottom? Where can you make speed and where can you make passes? Time to find out. Carroll on the pole next to Dalton Kilrow. The green flag is going to wave, and we are racing here at Homestead Miami Speedway. One truck in the back made a huge slide. I believe that was Miguel Gomez-Gaudet, but had a great job saving that truck. Smoked the left rear out, lost a ton of track position, but got it pointed in a straight line just behind the top 2. We are 3 wide. That's Gibson looking to the inside of Allen. Allen going to shut the door. Berg trying to carry momentum on the outside, but he's going to have a difficult time keeping that truck under him. Is going to give Allen a potential advantage here down the straightaway. 1 lap is complete, 134 to go, and this is the battle for the 3rd spot.
Boy, look at all the battles already. 2 wides, heck, the 3 wide we've seen now twice already here, but quickly they're going to try and separate this out and find the lane they want to ride in, but it's going to be difficult. Watch what's going to happen to Gaudet here on the start. He's getting way up top. Yeah, there he is. I guess he did hit the wall. At first, he looked like he tried to slam the brakes, Cade, to kind of keep it off the wall, but that goal was not achieved.
And it looked like what he wanted to do was slot himself in that upper groove to play defense, right? He wanted to be at the right rear quarter panel on corner exit to try to prevent somebody from making the pass. You see another issue for that 89 truck, something that slid him back to the rear of the field, back to the 24th spot. So we'll note that Wilson and Levine did not take the green flag, and he's going to fall all the way back to Van Hoot and Hall. This is what happened. Very, very loose.
Whoa.
Looked like
there it is.
At time, instead of turn 1, it was turn 3. Nearly contact with Michael Kelly, but luckily both trucks still intact.
And I think that's important to note that we kind of talked about in qualifying, Kane, that typically most drivers, if you want to run the bottom, they run it about a lane up like Kilrow is right there. A lot of drivers consider the white line at Homestead. It doesn't matter if you're in the truck, the Cup car, the O'Reilly car, whatever. A lot of drivers consider that lane to be death. It's just, I think it's just the way the banking transitions through the corners. A lot of times it's very difficult to keep a hold of yourself on that white line.
Absolutely. That is the 97 of Eddie Hagee. He's another guy sitting right around the cut line. We talk about that story coming in tonight. Dustin Ping not able to join us, so Hagee's the one who's trying to gain points on Gibson and William Bruton, or the last 2 in the points. Right now, pretty good move for Hagee around the outside. Going to get that truck. Big momentum right there. Difficult to pass a guy who does a good job working the outside. Even if you can get to his right rear quarter panel, that car is going to have more speed. It's going to be very difficult to make the pass.
Passing has happened so far this race. A lot of drivers up or down spots, and your top 5, only 1 pass has happened. That's Berg over top of Levi Allen. But from P6 on back, Cade, everybody has moved a spot in one direction or another.
We have a lot of shifting except for the top 2. Do want to point out Justin Levine is in fact in the field. Just decided to start from the rear and throw us for a little bit of a loop. He's made looking to make another pass here if he can get around Rick Thompson and Samuel Bumgard. And Levine, I think, is a guy who's going to have a lot of pace as he looks 3 wide. That's a really dangerous spot to do it, trying to put the truck in the middle, and instead grabs a little bit of the outside wall.
You want to keep in mind by this first stage is a bit of a mad dash, Cade. Lap 20 is your first stage break here. So a lot of drivers just kind of going all out and see them lean on one another back there with the 3 truck on the bottom, because it's just 20 laps and you get to come down pit road, put new tires on, and kind of see what you can learn. So in a lot of ways, this first 20 laps here, I think, is all about track position and less about strategy in the long term.
Exactly. For the guys that started at the rear, it's a little bit of a scramble to try to get to the front. For the guys up front, it's a little bit of a dash to see if they can hang on to whatever it is they have. That yellow flag is going to fly in just 13 laps, so not a whole lot of time, as Levine's already worked his way up to Hagee. Hagee, though, going to wind that truck up, see if he can't get a big run off the outside, but a little bit of a slider there from Levine gets him the spot. Excuse me, that was Scotty Stevens that threw the slider and then looked all the way to that white line. Wow. Derek, he committed the sin.
There's a lot of drivers are pushing that white line. I know I said it earlier, but Mark Arthur's been down there. A few others have been down there for most of the race. I just worry about those trucks as this race goes on and those tires wear if they continue to try that line. Here's Chris Carroll, your leader, from the back view here. And it's funny, this race sort of looks maybe single file, but it's not spread out, Kate. I mean, look behind him. He's got Kilrow, Berg, Levi Allen, and Cody Gibson all within 1 second of the back of his truck.
Absolutely. Even though it's not a super speedway, aerodynamics and the draft are still pretty important here. As you can see, Dalton Kilrow, just by being in the wake of that 99 truck down the front straightaway, that gives him a lot of momentum. These trucks don't have a ton of horsepower, and you can carry so much momentum through the highly banked corners. Levine got a little bit loose there, and that is the 97 of Eddie Hagee that touched the wall just a little bit.
Arthur.
Mark Arthur thought he could have been clear. We're going to have a look at this battle for the second spot. Chris Berg is going to stay a lane off the bottom, trying to wrap it. I think Kilrow tried to make a move on Carroll, and when that didn't work, it lost him momentum, but their door bang and potentially open up the door for Levi Allen. Here comes Cody Gibson loose, but he gets side by side with the 79 truck halfway through stage 1.
Well, that was a key moment to show you that apparently 8 tires were better than 4, because Kilrow and Chris Berg were both using 8 tires in that corner as they leaned on one another to try to, secure that spot. And it is Kilrow's going to drive away with it for now. Back to Mark Arthur, and I noticed through that last corner we watched, when I said watch Arthur, I noticed that truck was wiggling down on the bottom a little bit there, Cade. So I'm not sure if that's going to be kind of a hint as to what's to come, or if he just maybe got a little squirrely inside the car. Looked way better that time. Arthur, of course, right now on your screen battling for P12 with Bumgarden and Scotty Stevens and others here. So, and see, he's moved up a lane now.
And something to keep in mind, these trucks super sensitive to the way that you drive them. If you keep them all the way down to the bottom, as we get a wreck on the back straightaway, that's Scotty Stevens. He's able to kind of hit the wall, and I think hitting the safer barrier, straighten that truck out, no caution, but it's going to send him all the way to the 20th position. There was definitely contact because he was about 50 degrees compared to the racing line. We'll see. That's Kyle Wellman that he tried to put a slide job on.
I think he just got up, and I think he was trying to save the truck and nowhere for Wellman to go. Unfortunately for Wellman, contact for both of those drivers. But hey, the good news is in about 7 laps from now, Kane, they both get to come in, assess any damage, so they just have to hold on until that stage break. Let's watch the replay here. And here he comes up, nowhere to go, and nowhere for Wellman to go. Wellman tried to get out of the way, but just it seemed inevitable.
I think Wellman did a nice job there. Had a pretty decent amount of time to see that the incident was coming, but he was able to kind of just get away with a little bit of contact and get away with keeping that truck in a straight line. That's the way the season has gone for Wellman. He's had pace, he's got himself 4th in points, but he keeps finding incidents to get involved in, as this is contact between Brad Collins and Mike Massengill. Massengill sent it into the corner, kind of knew he was going to have to wrap the bottom if he wanted a chance to stay side by side, but instead resulted in a little bit of contact. That battle there was for the 9th spot with Levine. This battle here is now for 4th. Cody Gibson has gotten around the other orange truck in Chris Berg as they're trying to put some distance back to Brian Diaz. All of these are 4 positions that will be awarding stage points here in just a few laps' time.
Yeah, Cheeto's truck of Gibson way up top here in the corner, running a complete opposite line of the driver behind in Chris Berg. And both these guys, I would think, Kate, would kind of want to stay in line down the straight at least and see if they could pull any kind of draft to help them catch Allen, Kilroe, and Carroll before these laps are over. Already now working lap 15, almost lap 16, as we come around here at Homestead Miami Speedway.
And I'm curious to see how much speed is going to be left in both the 7 and the 66. They have been pushing hard, and even though it's only been 16 laps, that's a lot on these tires. You've got really high loads, especially on the right sides through these high-speed corners, and you can see the gap has opened. It's almost a second between third place Allen and fourth place Gibson, as that's a hairy mess back there for the 8th and 9th position. Levine has worked his way all the way up to battling Brian Zimmerman, and he's got that spot. Zimmerman's going to work the outside, as that's a little bit of door lead in between Arthur and Thompson, but they keep it straight, and Arthur gives him plenty of room, and I think he knows he just kind of had to tuck up in line on the straightaway so he could prevent losing too much momentum. Now this battle is Hagee to the inside of Zimmerman. Hagee wants 9th, and it looks like he's clear. Is he going to pull the slider? Yeah, he's got him clear.
Got him very clear, in fact. And now here comes the kind of the crossover from the back. He'll try and now see if he can complete the same move here in the corner. It will be the Havoline machine, the 28 there. He'll try and make the pass. This is right in front of Mark Arthur, by the way. And I feel like, Kate, as I was thinking about what is the theme, what's the reoccurring, moment from stage 1, it's got to be leaning on one another. That move with Mark Arthur had to have been probably the 3rd time we've seen a pair of trucks lean on one another in stage 1.
I think that happens because it is so difficult to make a pass. Of course, as I say that, we see Brian Dees slide up alongside Chris Berg, but that was pretty much textbook when we were riding, looking at the 28 truck there. He was on the outside. Even though he lost the spot, he had momentum, and that allowed him to get back to the inside here of 3 and 4, which I think at this stage in the race, it's not quite the preferred lane to be on the white line, but you have a legitimate chance down there to drive it in deep and retake the position if you lose it off turn 2. It's easier to do earlier in the run, but even at this stage, you can still get side by side, as we see these guys, that's Thompson and Arthur in front of Samuel Bumgarden, have stayed side by side for a while. Big check up there. I want to say that was Brian Zimmerman that got really loose. Now Thompson's going to push Arthur by on the inside, and this is a 4-truck scrap for the final point, or excuse me, the final position that will be awarded a stage point here in just about a lap. Look at the crossover from Bumgarden.
Great move on the bottom, but boy, we talked in the pre-race about how this is a track of many grooves and you can kind of choose your lane, but those camera shots right there already proved that point, Kate. I was watching that camera shot when we were watching on board from Bumgarden, and there was probably, 4 different lanes being used across those corners.
Absolutely, you can kind of go anywhere. This battle for the 7th spot, Levine wants another stage point. Kleinschmidt doesn't want to give it up because this is coming to the very, very end of stage number 1. Levine not going to be able to get it done, so Chris Carroll is going to be your stage winner. Dalton Kilroe keeping close tabs on him. Levi Allen, Cody Gibson, Brian Dees, last week's pole sitter Chris Berg. Kleinschmidt hangs on for 7th over Levine. Eddie Hagee getting some much needed points in the 9th position, and Mark Arthur beats Brian Zimmerman to the line for the final position in the top 10. So we're going to rack them back up. Good chance for everybody to come in for tires and fuel, Derek, and then next time we're going to do it again twice.
Yeah, we'll do it 40 laps the next time by. That'll end at 60, and then we'll go, well, at least no more stages, all the way to the end at 135. By the way, that note on Levine you mentioned, finishing P8 in the stage, that means he came up 17 spots in these first 20 laps, Kate. That is an incredible run, no matter who you are.
Exactly, and I wish I had known that he was actually going to be in this race in pre-race, because I would have given him a little bit more of a shout-out. As we can see the field trying to bunch up behind the pace car. You don't have to take the access road. Not sure why Chris Carroll is doing that, but pitting off of turn 4 is the norm here.
There was some confusion on driver radio about that topic, by the way. I could hear it in driver radio about, do we have to use the access road? So, yeah.
Now, you do have to use it on exit of pit road. That is something you have to do, as already on pit road, there were a couple of trucks that Scotty Stevens and Earl Hall Not sure why they pit early, if there was some necessity for them to do so. As nearly contact with the lead, that is going to shake things up at the top. You see Chris Carroll can't really get into his pit stall cleanly. Doesn't look like it's going to lose him that much time, but that was...
He is upset.
I don't blame him. That was
I know me either. No. Yeah, no.
But it looks like could have been 2 tires for Brian Dees. That's going to win him the race off pit road.
It's been good so far. And I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you a question as we're watching the battle for pit road here. I was actually talking with some friends about this earlier this week because, as the NASCAR Cup cars and iRacing and in real life are running at the Brickyard this weekend. Minus the new Echo Park, the quasi super speedway style Echo Park, is there a track left on the NASCAR schedule or common NASCAR tracks where you have to use the access road in? And honestly, with Homestead being a no nowadays, I don't think there is one, right?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. Indianapolis is an interesting one because you have
No one
that
uses
whole
those.
front street. Yeah, nobody uses the in-road there. There's not a standard 1.5 miles that has you pit off of turn 3, although I know it happens occasionally at maybe Chicagoland.
That's because of how tight pit road is, yeah.
We'll see
This
here.
is the
That
issue,
is,
by the way, with
that was
Godet. He just could not find his pit stall. Too many cars around him, and so he had to come around a second time. But yeah, in Indianapolis, no one really uses that access road in except for safety reasons, honestly, in either NASCAR or IndyCar. Here, it was at one point you had to use the access road, I thought, in for NASCAR, but I guess that's gone away. So minus the turn 3 entrance Echo Park, that's really the closest you're going to get to an access road on the pit road nowadays.
Tell you what, they need one at Watkins Glen. That pit entrance always scares me. Real sketchy coming off the final turn. That's not really a typical oval track, though. We're seeing the field double wide. We'll get back to the moment here. A couple of cars that put on 2 tires. I believe the top 3 only took right side, so we'll see how that affects the speed and handling of those trucks. That's going to put Brian Dees on the front row for the first time today. Justin Levine all the way up to second. Matthew Kleinschmidt up to the top 5 for the first time tonight. Then it's Carroll and Kilroe who've been the class of the field. Let's see how it shakes out. We're racing in stage number 2 with a great jump from Brian Dees. Here goes a move from Chris Carroll, 3 wide for the lead. They got checked up in front of him, a little bit bottled up, fighting on 2 tires. Carroll's going to be pinched down on the bottom, though, so here comes Dalton Kilroe. Luckily, Chris Carroll gets clear. The 3 truck slides up in front of the 41. Now Kilroe goes for the crossover. I think he's going to be able to get the move done on the inside of turn 1. As those trucks on 2 tires are struggling. Kleinschmidt's all the way back to 8th. Justin Levine losing time as he now has to give up the 3rd spot to Levi Allen. And just like that, the battle for the lead has resumed just the way it was at the end of the last stage.
And it's an interesting move by these drivers, in my opinion, Kate. I don't know what you think about this, because although it was only a 20-lap run, you mentioned the idea it's basically double to the next stage break. So if this 2-tire thing is quote-unquote problematic for you, if it causes you to fall back through the field, it's going to feel like an eon or 2 before you're back down to pit road to put new tires on.
And you've got to think about the pit window as we see a move for the race lead. That was Dalton Kilroe trying to swing it to the middle groove to generate some momentum, maybe get to the right rear quarter panel as Cody Gibson uses the outside to grab the 3rd spot. We saw him get way loose on the restart there. Here we go. Are we going to be 3 wide for the race lead? Doesn't look like it, but we are going to be side by side. Carroll's going to get momentum off the top side, does grab a little bit of the wall. That opens up a big hole in the air for Gibson. Does Cody Gibson shoot to the bottom? Not clearly, launches to the top.
Look at this, by the way. Chris Carroll, or this is Chris Carroll on the back of. That, through that corner, watch it again, we'll lay it back for a second. He's clutching with the engine off through this corner. Watch this right here as we come to the corner. Never mind. He's not going to do it that time. But you saw the graph on the bottom of your screen for the last couple times, Cade. That thing dropped to 0. He was trying to clutch and save. Maybe he's not now because he's in a battle here with the Gibson in the Cheetos truck. Let's see.
Ooh,
Kept
contact.
in, I thought bumped him, and he's okay. But yeah, there was a bit of fuel saving happening there for just a second.
And that goes to the point that I was just going to say is that was Samuel Bumgart that grabbed a little bit of the fence there in turn 2, side by side for the second spot. But we're talking about the pit window, 65% fuel tank for this series, as you can hear Chris Carroll back on the clutch, way out of the gas. Maybe they think there's a chance that we can get all the way to the end of this stage. We restarted with about 36 to go if it goes green. The drivers with 2 tires, you got to think if they are basically committed to pitting early in this stage, if they could have hung on to a little bit of track position, pit early, they would have been able to make it work. But the disadvantage was a little bit more than they thought. Right now, Justin Levine is the highest running of those drivers. That took 2 tires, and he is clear back in 13th after he worked so hard to get up through the field on that first stage. So sucks a lot for him, as Mark Arthur had a huge moment and had to give up a couple of spots. He's now slid back to the 9th position.
And as a reminder, 65% fuel tanks in the Blazing Pedals truck league. So there's no way anyone's going to make it on, I don't think at least, there's any way anyone makes it 36 laps on a tank of gas. Maybe you're trying to just kind of prolong the stop or run a couple extra laps, as we see down the pass here happening between the 4 and the 12. And the 4 comes up and leans on the 12, and the 12 definitely got sideways. And Cody Gibson, the 7 is up in the wall here live now, back full screen. 2 different moments, 2 different bits of contact, different methods. There was the contact with the 2 cars, and then there's Cody Gibson. He gets contact for the 99, and up in the wall he goes, and he's running okay for the moment, Cade, but maybe a little frustrated.
I think he's going to be a lot frustrated, but maybe not necessarily with Carroll. I think it's more, it'd be kind of self-frustration. It doesn't look like Carroll did anything wrong right there. That's maybe the 2nd or 3rd time that Gibson has tried to drive it in super hard on the right rear quarter panel. It's a great opportunity to take the air away, make the truck in front handle a little bit worse, and try to get around the outside, but it just didn't work out for Cody Gibson. That time he finally tried a little bit too hard and dropped himself outside of the top 10. Back up front now, it's Levi Allen who has a shot at Dalton Kilroe for the lead. Chris Carroll has slid back to 3rd under fire from Eddie Hagee, the best that the 97 has run all day, as he's looking to continue his march to the front.
Our march is happening here. We're watching the battle here with Chris Berg back there. He's trying to run down. That's going to be William Burton up ahead in the purple truck. Now we move ahead up in the battle. This would be Daniel Bumgarten up top in that black truck with the, well, I guess you want to call it, does that actually say metal yellow? I can't tell through the glare, but it definitely gives me the metal yellow vibes on that truck.
I believe that's the Mullet Music Productions machine. We got to talk to him last week after his top 3 in Atlanta. Gave them a shout out. That is a really good looking paint scheme, and he's got it in a really good looking spot right now. Chris Carroll, I don't know if Carroll has committed fully to the fuel save or if he's just a little bit slower at this stage of the race, but he is sliding a little bit backwards as he's potentially going to lose that 3rd spot. Got Warren on pit road. That's Matthew Kleinschmidt, driver who took 2 tires last time by, and this is what I was talking about. Pit early, get the pit stop taken care of, and hope that you gained a little bit of track position with those 2 tires.
3 wide on the track for a moment with a 25 on the bottom. That's going to get worked out, though. Here's the challenge for Kleinschmidt, though, that's going to be a little difficult in my mind. Cade, A, he's going to get lapped, so he's going to have to hope this cycles through. But B, if it doesn't cycle through, and this is the fear you have with that strategy, you could find yourself stuck a lap down or stuck in a really bad spot here, how this goes. Justin Levine's now decided to pit. That was another one of the drivers who took 2 tires. So I'm not sure if this is a strategy, Cade, or if they just kind of said, hey, that didn't work.
I think it's kind of a combination of both. Ideally, it will go green, but that takes me back to a point that you'd made earlier where you want to maybe pit later than you would necessarily think is possible on the field run in case that yellow does come out, right? You do not want to be just coming off of pit road when the caution flag flies, and that tends to happen here in this 2nd stage. We will get a yellow, and we will get a yellow. Mark Arthur nearly up in the air, and that is going to be damning for Matthew Kleinschmidt
Just gonna put
as the caution comes out. Wow.
Well, it's going to be him or Levine, I would think, who are going to be lucky dog. They're both a lap down, I do believe. Yep, according to timing and scoring. So one of them will benefit from this.
I think it's
I
Levine.
think it's Levine.
Yeah.
So the question now, if you're Kleinschmidt, is Mark Arthur's going to bring this damaged truck down pit road? That thing was off the ground for at least 2 tires. Yeah, Sindall complains to Cade Corbin. You called that yellow.
That might be the worst jinx.
If you're Kleinschmidt now, what you've got to hope for, Cade, is that all these trucks come down together to get that, put the gas in the truck, and maybe get the wave around. But let's watch what happened here. I mean, Arthur just came up. I mean, not clear as far as I'm concerned.
You talk about being able to stay out. You are correct. Kleinschmidt should be in pretty good position to wave around here. But that is still going to put both him and Levine at the tail end of the longest line. As we actually are going to see Dalton Kilroe stay out, so no wave around for Kleinschmidt.
Okay, never mind.
Interesting.
Question. I don't mind for listen, we know from watching placing puddles, Dalton Kilroe is like the king of fuel save. If there's an iota of fuel to be saved, Dalton Kilroe knows how. Watch this again. This is Mark Arthur coming up, and if I have any surprise here, Cade, that Mark Arthur truck was getting repairs done. Is going to come back on track. It looks like. I thought that truck would have been done, but Dalton is the king of fuel save. So I'm almost not surprised he's pulled off this move here, and is going to try and save it.
So we'll see if Kilroe, Zimmerman, and others can make it to the end of the field. Most of the drivers that did come into pit, you can see Chris Carroll on back. Fuel only for a majority of those drivers. They really just needed a splash, I think, to get to the end of stage number 2. That's going to be happening in 20 laps or so. And they've got themselves in, I think, an okay position. What worries me now is we're going to restart on older tires, which means the trucks are going to be sliding around. You're not going to have a lot of grip while getting up to speed. And if cautions breed cautions, that's going to play into the hands of these lead drivers who currently are stretching their fuel to get to the end of the stage.
So now we kind of got 3 different things going on here. We got Dalton Kilroe, who didn't pit. We've got a few drivers who are gas only. We got some drivers who didn't take tires, only took 2 tires last time. We got Kleinschmidt, Levine on new tires, but let's see. Kleinschmidt still being scored a lap down, so he did not get the wave run. But Levine is back there on the newest tires in the back of the field. There's like, 4 or 5 I'm going to need like a whiteboard and a flow chart here in a second to keep track of all these different variations of what's happening on the track.
You've also got a few drivers that are currently struggling with issues out of the race. Cody Gibson, we mentioned there was some big wall contact earlier. He's elected to take that truck to pit road. He's still being scored 2 laps down. Scotty Stevens had some issues. He's 2 laps down. Mark Arthur has lost a couple of laps because of that damage. Tanner Marr, we also saw he had a little bit of left front damage to repair as well. Although Marr has hung on to the lead lap. He's the tail end of the lead lap, running in the 20th position. Excuse me, he's back in 16th. Levine, tail end of the lead lap. Still 20 trucks in it with 20 to go until the conclusion of stage number 2. Kilroe going to lead us back to the green flag. He gets a great restart over Wellman and Zimmerman as they're going to fan out behind them. That's Rick Thompson, and how about John Perkins? Haven't talked much about those 2 trucks all day, but they're doing battle inside the top 5. First 3 wide battle is going to concede the spot from Collins to Chris Carroll, as Carroll not quite clear on Sam Bumgarden, but he has got himself in a spot where he knows he can get to the end of the stage. It's just going to be if he can work his way through this traffic on about 20-lap-old tires.
I think this run's going to be much more intense than what we saw at the beginning of stage 2K, because minus Dalton
Brad
Kilroe,
Collins, contact in the back. Excuse me, that's Miguel Gomez-Gaudet. Pounds the inside wall, collects Noah Van Hoot, and the yellow has come out again. Sorry to cut you off, Derek, but they were wrecking big in the back.
Yeah, that actually kind of proves what I was saying. It's going to get much more intense because no one has to fuel save. No one has to back up here. Everyone's going to race really hard is what the point I was going to make. And let's watch the replay. The double zeros in the middle. Gaudet and the red, white, and blue up top. And the double zero, I don't know. Oh, yeah, Gaudet got a bump in the back from someone. I couldn't tell who that was. And then it kind of upset the truck a little bit. and then Godet went around and cautions out.
So Justin Levine was the one who made a little bit of rear end contact to MGG. That was about, I think, the third incident we've seen him be involved in today. You see Levine's going to get a huge run. They get stacked up in front of him, but Gomez Godet gets the wall, and then Levine comes in and tags him. So it was a little bit of a group effort to send that 89 truck sideways, and Noah Van Hoot doing battle there. At the end of the lead lap, he was the one who was kind of an innocent bystander. I hate to admit it, but that was the second one of the night that I've called. I'm 2 for 2 because I kind of said that cautions might breed caution, and sure enough, they did.
I'll take half on that. I was just in the middle of a point saying things are getting more intense. I think it's half if you believe in the whole curse thing. By the way, for good news for Matthew Kleinschmidt of all people, that should put him back on the lead lap with the lucky dog once we get around here. We should see him zoom around on the outside, I would believe, unless he was involved in that in some way. Nope, there he goes up top. Kleinschmidt on around. So what we thought could have been a mistake on pit road that got, sort of highlighted by that last caution, now it's been wiped away with this caution.
And I actually like the position that Kleinschmidt is in right now, Derek. You brought this up on the last restart. He and Justin Levine are both on fresher tires than a majority of the field in front of them. Of course, the guys that haven't they haven't been on pit road since the end of stage 1. That was now 24 laps ago. And a lot of the drivers behind him that did a splash and go, they also have 24 laps on their tires. Levine and Kleinschmidt now are on the lead lap, and they've got 4 fresh ones, just about 6 laps on those tires, and most of them are caution laps. But Kleinschmidt doesn't have that front end contact. I don't think it was big enough to really damage the 3 truck, but Matthew Kleinschmidt right now, I think he's in an okay spot to make up some track position, and I'm very glad that he's got himself back in this one, because I like it when somebody tries something different, and I hate it when the aggressive strategies get punished. So good for Kleinschmidt, back on the lead lap and back in this race.
And I think the other person that's probably now sitting in the catbird seat is Dalton Kilrow. I would have to say, Cade, after now with 2 cautions in this stage, I don't think there's a doubt that Kilrow could make it on gas at this point. I think that probably has been sealed up and locked away. So a move by Kilrow that seemed suspicious the first time, I think it's definitely good now. And if we would happen to get a 3rd caution in the stage, would definitely be good here. Remember, we're going to end on the end of lap 60, so we're 12 laps away from a stage break where he could put gas in that truck.
So it'll be 15 to go with this restart, I should say, but close enough, as Dalton Kilrow going to have Kyle Wellman to his outside. This is the highest that Wellman has run all day. Had a really good restart the last time we took the jump, so we'll see if he can do a good job hanging at the right rear quarter panel of Dalton Kilrow. I think if we don't want to jinx these guys, we might just have to shut up. So we'll go ahead and let them run for a lap or so. Hopefully we get a lap of green flag racing. Going to be Thompson, Wellman, row 2. How about Perkins and Carroll, row 3? As Baumgartenberg, Collins, and Levi Allen round out the top 10. The sun is setting. We're nearly under nighttime conditions as we're racing again here at Homestead.
Well, down the back straight here, Dalton Kilrow's under attack by Kyle Wellman in the 42. The wild man, Kyle Wellman, wants to take the lead here, and they're still side by side, almost out of 3 and 4. They're going to drag race to the line to complete this first lap here after we went green here, and they're still at it, Cade.
You've got to remember, even though we just are restarting, these drivers have 27 or so laps on their tires. Kilrow does a great job driving it deep into the corner. I thought Wellman might have a chance to wrap the top and get some momentum, but the bottom groove, I think, is rubbered in and really, really good right now. Both ends of the racetrack, we're going to see Kilrow peel off and take that line, along with Perkins and Thompson. Kilrow actually nearly gets to the bottom, but he's making good speed down there. That could potentially open up the door for the 76, 25, whatever number truck you want to call that one. But Rick Thompson is looking for the second spot as Justin Levine. We talk about him on those fresh tires. Evidently no major front-end damage as he is back inside the top 10. We also want to update you, Mark Arthur back on track 8 laps down. Cody Gibson back on track 9 laps down.
Did someone not pay the light bill?
Yeah, the lights, they should be on by now.
Yeah, it's a dark Miami night here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. I was kind of being sarcastic, and of course, I know they'll turn on eventually, but I thought they'd be on already here. The sun has definitely set here at the track.
Oh, that was some contact.
Thompson got some contact on the bottom, and a great save by Thompson here. That was from Kyle Wellman. Oh, there's the retaliation.
Oh,
and Wellman into the wall. And caution is out, and let's look at that again. I used the word retaliation, and I want to go back and double check it, but from a far off distance, it kind of felt that way, Kate. Wellman's done. That's the ominous puff. So here it starts. This is what we saw as we were talking about the lights here. Wellman's going to come up under. He's going to get very much in the back quarter panel of Thompson. Thompson's up top. We're going to go on around. This is not, it's actually that's Zimmerman. Kyle, yeah, no. And it's also, it's loose. He got hit and into the wall. But that's a different driver as well, Cade.
Yeah, and it didn't look like Thompson was really thinking about the retaliation at least yet. He was still focused on collecting that truck. I think Kyle Wellman kind of tried to put his sights forward and get that truck wound back up. And when he was, trying to regain momentum, I think he overdrove the truck, trying to gain back all the speed that he lost on the entry to the corner, and tried to slide up as he was fighting the back end, and he found Brian Zimmerman.
Wow.
I believe that's the fourth time, I think, tonight.
Yeah, it's at least that. And again, I'd apologize. I was wrong. I want to apologize to Thompson. I thought for sure I just saw that same color truck, and I thought maybe that's what it was. But no, Kyle Wellman's got loose, and round he went off the front of Zimmerman. So under caution, again, this now will be a very much a mad dash. As you see your lucky dog there of, who would that have been? That was not the 00. The green truck that went on around. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. He's now being scored lead lap because Noah Van Hoot is your lucky dog.
And that's really good for him. Remember, he was kind of an innocent bystander of our previous yellow. So he's going to get back to the lead lap, and he's now going to come in and either fix some damage tires. We'll see.
This is interesting. If you put gas and tires on now, and we're what? Probably we're going to green with what? Do you think 7 laps to go before the stage ends? Maybe you stay out at the end of the stage and kind of flip the track, because everyone's going to have to pit a couple times in the last stage. So I don't know.
It would be really, really close on fuel right now. Of course, our final stage is looking to be about 75 laps. And if you can make it the entire distance on this stage, that'll put you at an absolute maximum of 40 laps of fuel, which means you're definitely going to have to make one stop in that final stage. And it's going to be pretty much at exactly the halfway mark. If you do try the 2-stop strategy, you could set yourself up in position to do that here with a bit here. It doesn't look like anybody's going to try that, maybe other than Noah Van Hoot. So we'll keep an eye on that strategy. Chris Carroll has worked his way all the way up to the 2nd position after the splash and dash. Big contact between a couple of front runners got them out of his way. Justin Levine also has used that to his advantage to sneak up to the 7th position. How about Chris Berg back up to P6? And yeah, just a few big names here. Earlier we mentioned Matthew Kleinschmidt was on fresh tires as well. He is up to the 12th position as he continues his recovery after pitting under green. Happy you could join us here on Green Flag TV for tonight's race around the Homestead Miami Speedway. Dalton Kilrow, Chris Carroll have been the 2 best all season. Seems very fitting that they are on the front row right here. The pace car is going to pull off, and we are going to take the green flag once again. It'll be just 8 laps remaining in stage number 2. They hit the restart zone, and away we go. Great jump from Kilrow. We're racing again.
The lights are on, and I think so will be the intensity to the end of the stage here. Remember, end of 60 is our stage break. Kilrow pulls away, but side by side from probably fourth on back, that'd be Levine, Zimmerman, Perkins, Haggy, and Moore. Levine, remember, had to come from the back again after being the lucky dog here. So to see him back up involved in a battle now for P3, Cade, is just a true testament to how hard and how well Levine drives these trucks.
It is, but he's also got fresh tires on there. Remember, he pit when a lot of others stayed out. That's got him side by side with Chris Carroll, and now he's within striking distance of the lead. Matthew Kleinschmidt on that same strategy's broken into the top 10, but it was a great restart for Justin Levine. I saw him knife his way from 7th to 3rd just like nothing. So we'll see what he's able to do with the leader. This is a great battle for the 5th spot. Eddie Hagee, one of those drivers right around the playoff bubble, trying to get it done as Zimmerman is way up to the wall. Remember, he had some contact under that most recent yellow, didn't come in to fix it. I wonder if that's affecting the handling at all, as he's going to park that truck in front of Ad Collins and try to stop the bleeding there in the 28.
Well, Justin Levine just at the fastest lap of the night, the 33.434. I think a mix of the new tires, the lower track temp, the confidence, the clean air, the side-by-side battle, all of it's leading him to driving harder and faster side by side in the 3 and 4, which is ironic with the 3 and the 41 truck. And Levine's going to pull away and take the lead with only a few laps to go.
Yeah, just barely clear, but he slides up in front of Kilrow, grabs the lead, third different driver to lead tonight, and it looks like Justin Levine is going to go from starting the race at the very rear to winning stage number 2. He's just going to have to hang on to it as we see this battle for third heating up. Rick Thompson looking to the inside of Chris Carroll, was able to get to the quarter panel. Can he wrap the white line? No, looks like he got a little bit loose, and Carroll's going to have momentum on the outside.
Felt like I was watching a sequel to that wreck a little bit ago with the quarter panel, but all is good. But it felt very ominous there for a second as we saw that battle happening. This is now the 34 and the 97 fighting side by side in front of your camera here. That's John Perkins and Eddie Hagee. Oh, and the 97 might have just barely scrubbed the wall there. But only a few laps to go here until stage is going to end. It feels like Levine is walking away, but I don't know what's causing this, Cade, but as this stage is ending, driver chatter is becoming very chirpy, and a lot of it is not happy chirpy. And so I'm not sure if that's just because of the style of racing tonight, if it's just because of the number of cautions, but tempers seem a little hot.
Well, you've got a much different style of racing than last week in Atlanta. That track kind of lended itself to getting spread out. You had multiple grooves, but the field kind of dispersed rather quickly. Here, they're held a little bit closer together. You can run side by side for longer. We've seen a lot of leaning. We've seen some drivers get shots on corner entry. And yeah, I can imagine it's led to some very aggravated drivers, to put it that way. You can just run side by side, and it gets frustrating when you can't complete that pass. You make a little bit of contact, it makes the whole situation worse. This specific battle that we're looking back has actually been pretty good. Eddie Hagee has been stout on the outside, but some other battles have gotten a little physical.
Yeah, well, about 1 lap left to go before the stage break comes around. Levine with a 1.4 second lead over Dalton Kilrow. That seems to be settled here. But this last time around, this is the last time you're guaranteed to pit under caution. Now, we saw some kind of tomfoolery, if you will, Cade, under the first stage break where, you know, people took 2 tires, no tires, gas only, 4 tires, and all that stuff. This time I suspect it would be 4 tires and gas for the entire field. But this man right here took advantage of his 4 tires, and the 3 truck comes out of 3, now out of 4. Down the back straight, and Justin Levine wins stage 2.
He's going to get it over Dalton Kilrow. Chris Carroll winning stage number 1, is going to get a lot of stage points here tonight. Rick Thompson, Eddie Hagee, John Perkins, Levi Allen, Matthew Kleinschmidt, Sam Bumgarden, and Chris Berg are going to round out the top 10. So some good points for all of those drivers. Yeah, just like we talked about, we're going to have a look at the pit strategy in a second, but first, We got to thank the sponsors. Special thanks to the Ohio and Indiana Roofing Company. As a sister company to the Burns Construction Empire, they specialize in commercial and industrial roofing and are committed to accommodating the unique needs of each client. They offer creative solutions to meet their needs as a team of individuals who work for the same common goals: professionalism, quality, and service. They offer preventative maintenance, re-roofing, new roof construction, some infrared scanning, metal roofing, retrofitting, emergency repairs, anything that you might need for your roof. Head on over to oiroofing.com for more information. They've been a great partner to the Blazing Pedals League, a great partner to us tonight, and we appreciate their patronage of the league.
This time by, pit road will be open, and I suspect it's everyone down, being led by Levine. It's just a parade lap of lead lap cars. There's Mark Arthur. He'll stay out of course multiple laps down. He came off a pit road way later from that damage, but all lead lap cars on pit road. Levine's in first, gets it stopped in the stall. And this is just going to be a race, I think, of pace on and off pit road, because there's no strategy involved here, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I like you said, as we were coming to the green and white checker there, you don't really have any options other than putting 4 tires on right here. Nearly contact with Noah Van Hoot for your stage winner. Brian Dees is going to try it again.
Never mind.
I just think other than that, you kind of know that to make it on fuel, you have to run basically 34 straight green flag laps right here. That's the only way you're going to get to the fuel window opening to the end of the race, and you're not going to be able to do that if you don't start the run with grip. Now, there may be a limitation in here somewhere about number of tire sets. I don't have that number, but other than that, I'd want to start this run on 4 fresh ones.
So 6 to the ones you start with, and 5 more sets of tires. So for 135 laps, and I was an okay math student. That's what, 25 laps per set, right? 120, 130. Yeah, but 25 laps.
That's
and that did not require me take my shoes off for that, actually.
And it doesn't mean that anybody is limited either, right? We talk about maybe additional pit stops somewhere in there for guys like Kleinschmidt or Levine. They're not really behind the 8 ball on terms of tire sets. We'll see if this strategy plays off for Brian Dees. It didn't last time.
No.
But he's a man who's going to see what he can do. If you're splitting this final stage into 2 stops, I could see the potential of this working out. He may have pitted under one of those yellows in the previous stage, so his tires aren't that old, but compared to the guys around him, he's going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage. We'll see what drivers want to do once we get going green. It is going to be 71 laps to go, by far the longest stint that we've had all night. We'll see how much of it we can do under green, hopefully quite a bit, but we shall see.
So I'll tell you what, there's multiple things Brian Dees could be thinking right now, but I don't. If you're Levine, Carroll, Kilroy, anything else, anyone else in this field, all you're thinking is one thing. We've been in a spot before, Kate, as drivers. You're saying to yourself, please don't spin the tires. Please don't spin the tires. Please don't spin the tires. Well, let's find out. Pace car's down. Does he spin the tires? We'll get ready to find out. Green flag's back out. It's a good start for Dees, but how long to stay up front? I'm going to predict, Cade, it's probably not very long.
I think I'll give him until the backstretch. Justin Levine is there. Whoa, Dalton Kilrow hard into the outside wall. Pounds it face first. Massive wreck behind him. That's Bumgarten, Marr, and others. It looks like Mike Massengill was the only other truck involved, so we'll get a total on that. But speaking of total, that 4 truck is done. Major damage for Dalton Kilrow, one of the dominant trucks of the night, and it happened at the front of the field.
What happened here? Let's watch through the corner, and Kilrow just got loose, and up in the wall he went, and then just got ran into. Okay.
And this is something that's typical with these trucks. I've experienced it myself. When you restart on the outside on new tires, especially on a cooler racetrack, the truck is so loose. You just don't have the grip and the air pressures built up to be able to run hard into the corner. I think Kilrow kind of forgot to account for that. You saw the back end wiggle, then the correction, then the truck finally stepped out on it. We're going to watch. I mean, Kilrow fought it for a while.
That's how the 4 got involved.
Yeah, that's how Bumgarten got into Tanner Marr. Kilrow was fighting for a long time to try to save that truck, and unfortunately could not do it. So we're going to see a little bit of a split decision here. Pitting here makes it much easier to make the rest of the race on a single stop, but staying out kind of guarantees that you have enough fuel to do it. We'll see if it's 2 or 4 tires for Carroll and others. Carroll and Allen, certainly the most competitive trucks that have headed down pit road. Just about everybody else has stayed out. Fuel only for Chris Carroll.
I think this is more of a mental boost for the drivers, if that makes sense, Cade. You're kind of right. I don't know that what this 1 lap extra of fuel, maybe 2 laps, does for you, other than it makes you feel better in your head. It gives you that confidence of saying, I have more gas. Maybe I can make it. You're not questioning yourself. You kind of feel like you have something more than others in the field. And so, in reality, those extra 2 laps of fuel may not mean a whole lot as far as the actual math is concerned. But from a mentality standpoint, you definitely feel more at ease, I think, than the drivers up front. Well, hey, good news for Brian Dees with that caution coming out so fast. He's going to stay up front for a little bit longer. A great restart that time for Dees, by the way. I know I was kind of saying, you know, all the other drivers have got to be nervous. Whenever you have a driver up front, Cade, who didn't pit with the field gets nervous. That's just, I think, a rule of iRacing that you can't get around. But Dees did an incredible job on that start.
He did, and I was surprised that he wasn't on pit road right there. I think with this caution coming out, as well as a high potential for other cautions to come out, you basically know at this point that it's a one-stop race from here to the end. The 2-stop strategy has kind of gone out the window, which means the call to stay out, or I think it was the fuel-only call actually for Brian Dees, that strategy call, I think, is an even lower percentage of working out now. I don't know how long he's going to be able to hang on to those. Don't know how long he's going to be able to hang on to that lead. Sorry, I got confused by the graph at the bottom, but that is when he was on pit road. So he had pitted just 12 laps before the fuel only stop at the end of the stage. But I just think even 12 laps, even though some of those are caution laps, I think that is still a big disadvantage to the trucks around him. We'll see, though. Stage 2 winner Justin Levine to his outside. Eddie Hagee back inside the top 5 alongside of Rick Thompson, John Perkins, Matthew Kleinschmidt rounding out the first 3 rows as we hit the halfway mark. Half up, half down. We're racing once again at Homestead. 67 to go.
Nice jump again by Dees, side by side for P2. Dees. Now let's see how long he can last here. Now remember, the good news for Dees, by the way, here, kids, every time we have a restart, if we have a couple more, as now he's going to get passed by Levine on the outside, every time we have a restart and everyone kind of cycles those tires, it kind of brings the race a little bit back to Brian Dees. Still now fighting for P2, maybe P3 as we finish this first lap.
He's got a couple heat cycles on those tires. Everybody else does too. Makes it a little bit easier. I honestly think that makes it better for the trucks around him when you have a massive speed difference, right? Somebody is significantly slower. It can almost be harder to pass them because it feels like you're getting around an obstacle rather than just racing a guy. So if Brian Dees has a little bit more relative pace to the trucks around him, then might make it a little bit easier on those guys that are a little bit fast. You see Kleinschmidt not only got Perkins, but also is going to pass Brian Dees to move up to the 4th position. Now Perkins looking for the 5th spot. And how about William Bruton? He's played some good strategy games today, trying to keep himself inside the playoff position there to make the chase. He is hanging on to the top 10, and it looks like he'll be in a position to get around Brian Dees as well.
Lots of battles happening here. The 34 is making the move on Brian Dees. That 34, by the way, with that yellow paint, Kane, that thing is just popping off the night lights here at Homestead Miami Speedway. Of course, I know we joked earlier, but the lights are very much on as of this point here because you can now see the colors of the trucks pop, and that purple is popping off the lights here. It's always cool to see night racing when people make paint schemes specifically for it, and they just kind of, you know, they show up very well under the lights.
There's a lot of really good looking paint schemes in this league. I like the 83 of Burton. I like that 34. The couple throwbacks there, you know, Zimmerman and Wellman, those trucks look fantastic. Justin Levine with the old Dale Earnhardt throwback. How about the 99 season spec map on there? These trucks look really good. One of my favorite parts of, you know, calling a league or watching a league race is seeing all the different schemes that these guys can come up with, and, you know, all the commissions that get done that come out super well. That's a pretty good, you know, that's a Flames looking car there alongside the 49. Looks good under the lights. Chris Berg actually doing a good job gaining some track position as he sets up Michael Kelly there. This is the highest that Michael Kelly's been all night inside the top dozen. Going to lose that spot, but peaking at the right time for Michael Kelly. It's Chris Berg. Grabs the 12th spot on the inside.
Beautiful run down the back straight for those two cars that were side by side. But up front, it's Levine, it's Haggy, it's Rick Thompson, and Kleinschmidt. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Boy, I know we kind of hinted at it earlier, Kay, but what a tale of two races for Matthew Kleinschmidt. I mean, we were just, what, the end of stage 1 when we thought Kleinschmidt might have been cooked based upon some cautions coming out, and here he is now back at top 4.
He's done a really good job, and he's done a good job since he recovered, maintaining that track position. As we get a move for the lead, Eddie Haggy looked to the inside of Justin Levine. I don't think he's going to have enough momentum to really get there, but Levine nearly grabbed the wall, and Eddie Haggy keeping himself pretty steady in this one. Look at the push from Kleinschmidt to the back bumper of Thompson. So as this battle for the lead continues to heat up, these top 4 trucks have kind of snuck away. They've got over a full second back to the battle for the 5th position. As we hop along board with Brian Zimmerman, we're going to let you turn up those speakers, headphones, whatever it is you're using to listen to us. Test those out, listen to some engine noise, as here on Green Flag TV, we're going to feel the noise at Homestead, Miami. We'll go back to Blazing Petals action from Homestead, Miami. The battle at the front has not cooled down as they put Dalton Kilroe a lap down. Justin Levine starting to peel away just a little bit, has left Eddie Hagee in the clutches of Matthew Kleinschmidt and Rick Thompson. Kleinschmidt, probably one of his best races of the season, got himself in potential for a podium. How about Brian Dees? Talk about that tire strategy call. It's worked out all right as he shook out to the 7th position, just behind what's been a great battle for the 5th position. We're glad you could join us. Hoping you stick with us for the final 54 laps around this, what I would say is a pretty fantastic racetrack. You can run just about anywhere, and that's what guys have been doing all night long.
It is a fantastic racetrack, isn't it? A lot of character, a lot of differences to this racetrack. And I think because of the shape of it, Cade, where it's very much round. It's not your typical D-shaped mile-and-a-half track. Therefore, I think a lot of people think of it as, maybe more than a mile and a half, but it's not. It's the same distance as a Las Vegas or other tracks or Kansas in that style, but it feels very different when you're driving a very long laps. I mean, 34-second lap times are what most of our leaders are running, maybe into the 35s here. So it's a big track. It's a long track. And again, I want to say for how relatively quote unquote new this track is, this is the 3rd iteration of Homestead Miami Speedway. Remember, it did not start as this banked oval.
No, it started really, really flat as we see a big slide out of Zimmerman there. Repaved it in, I believe, the early 2000s when they moved it on the schedule to host the final race of what was at the time the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, quickly became the Nextel Cup Series. And it had been hosting the finale every year since until it got moved over to Phoenix. Luckily, this season, it has been moved back to the final race of the season. I think that is going to be one of the most anticipated races on the Cup Series schedule right here, though we're racing middle season for the Blazing Petals League and showing why all that history is there. Because when the lights go down, you've got the nice blue paint, you've got the reflections, the moments that happen here, the champions that have been crowned, and Justin Levine looking to make himself a winner on what has become hallowed ground.
It has become hallowed ground, and I want to go back to what you kind of hinted at. This track first ran in 1995, and for the first 2 years, 95 and 96, this track was basically a mile-and-a-half version of the Brickyard. Very flat, 4 corners, square-shaped, I guess rectangle base, if you want to call it that. Then in 97, it became a typical oval, not that kind of square. But then you're right, in 2002 was the first year that it had this now progressive banking style system on the track. So 3 different iterations of this track since 1995. I mean, there's a lot of ovals on the schedule that have never changed, Cade, and here we are now in the 3rd. But you did mention this is going to once again become what's going to become, according to NASCAR, a rotating schedule for finale tracks, and it'll host this year. But that list, Kate, is going to be kind of awkward because NASCAR has said no super speedways and no road courses finale, which I get it. That's fine. But if you think about the number of tracks on the NASCAR schedule that you would feel comfortable booking a race in, let's say, mid-November and not worried about weather, there's what? There's Homestead, there's Texas, there's Phoenix. That's about it for me. That I would want to book a race in November and not be scared of rain or snow.
I think it's something interesting to talk about when you talk about this track is how it has worn out over time as well. It hasn't been reconfigured in a while, but it has gripped up. And I bring up that point because I think in a couple of years' time, Atlanta, or rather Echo Park Speedway, it wears out enough. It could transition back into a mile and a half, right? We're not going to be able to run the draft or, have it be a drafting style track forever. That it loses grip every time we go there. So I think that, honestly, if they don't consider it a super speedway anymore, even now, when it's kind of a little bit of a different style than the other ones, but I think Atlanta's the other one you could consider. Somewhere else in Florida, I wish we had Auto Club back, right? That would be a great track to potentially go to as a finale, but that one has sort of been killed. But I think bringing it to Homestead is the right decision, and hopefully it has a pretty prominent space there in the rotation.
I mean, it's going to have to. As I said, there's only a few tracks. I mean, no one's going to book like, New Hampshire in November, right? That sounds like a recipe for disaster. But
Well,
even
it did
Kansas,
happen once.
yeah, that happened in 2001 as a makeup race, but it snowed that weekend. I vividly remember it snowing that weekend at that race, and they did run it, but yeah, you could not confidently book that and think there's a that's 50-50. Your race could get moved to like a Tuesday morning or something because of weather. So it's going to be a very tight schedule of rotations. And I will say I do like the analogy to Echo Park, because I think even Echo Park in real life today, Cade, it's probably not the same Echo Park we've been iRacing. It's already worn out a lot. It's not exactly the same style of racing that we covered last week for Blazing Pedals.
Really not, as we see Dalton Kilrow coming down pit road, now getting side by side for the third position. Kilrow had lost the free pass spot to Scotty Stevens. Stevens had spent all day fighting some issues. I don't know if it was a damage or hardware issues or what, but Scotty Stevens had found himself way at the back and on pit road for a while. Big loose moment there for Eddie Hagee. But Stevens has now got himself one lap down and in the free pass position. Kilrow kind of recognized that he didn't have a great chance to get back in the race, decided to pit and going to take tires and fix some damage on the 41 truck. Let's ride along with Eddie Hagee. He can see Kleinschmidt just behind him, works the truck all the way up to the wall to try to make sure he gets that pass done, and he did.
Whew. Almost got a lot more done there, as we almost did with those hand movements. Almost found the wall and almost repainted his car seafoam green on the outside, what he almost did there. But yeah, Kilrow has been way off pace. See, now he's trying to get damage fixed. That timer's running really long. Last time I looked over a few laps ago, Cade, I think it was 2 or 3 seconds slower than the field. He has that damage from that wreck that happened right after the restart, when he got loose and then all hell broke loose thereafter. But meanwhile, back on the track, you see this race now has kind of mostly calmed down. This is mostly become a single file race.
Really has. We just saw Chris Carroll finally get around Brian Dees. I think that was a pass a long time in the making. Chris Carroll, kind of important right now that he doesn't make a mistake, doesn't do anything too crazy, because he has the provisional point lead over Dalton Kilrow. With all those points that Kilrow has lost from the crash, that's going to basically move Chris Carroll back into first position, and again, back in position to gain a lot of bonus points when the chase kicks off in just 5 weeks. Now Brian Dees going to potentially lose another spot to Levi Allen. We got a few different strategies going on here, but for everybody, I would say the window to pit to make it to the end of the race on fuel is going to open up in, I would say, anywhere from 4 to 8 laps from now. And as we saw last week in Atlanta, when you pit becomes incredibly important, because if you pit soon, you'll have the advantage on the front end of the run, but you'll be slow by the time we throw the checkered flag. And if you pit a little bit later, you'll be playing offense until we get to the checkered flag, the overcut, as we call it. And when those two strategies converge, it can lead to some very interesting racing. So we'll see whose hands it plays into. Levi Allen gets the pass done. He's now clear a ways, as this is a pretty good battle for the 11th spot. How about Brad Collins getting it done ahead of Chris Berg?
Yeah, good run for Brad Collins up in P11, with Chris Berg on back from him. And as I looked up the ticker, I realized we're 41 to go. This race has kind of flown on by, and we're probably, what do you say, about, I was going to say 5 laps. I thought from the pit window being open for confidence, but Hagee is going to come down now here to pit road with 40 to go on the marker here. So maybe Eddie thinks this is now the spot where you're good on gas. I would have thought we could have waited a few more laps to be confident about it. As you see now, Justin Levine trying to chase down another truck. He's about to put a lap down. That's the 00 of Noah Van Hoot, who we saw already get the lucky dog once. They side by side, and Levine almost wiped out the lapped car there, or the potential lapped car there.
Hoot doesn't want to give up that lap if he doesn't have to, as we see Brian Dees come to pit, and that's going to put Van Hoot in the free pass spot and knock that potential away from Scotty Stevens. I'd imagine those two going to try to run long here. Justin Levine, we'll see if when he wants to pit. He's got a 1.5 second lead over Rick Thompson, who's been doing a good job tonight. So that'll be the interval to kind of keep an eye on when both of those drivers pit. It is about 1.5 seconds at the moment, and they're both going to stay out. Now we took the beginning of the stage about 36 laps ago, so I think the fuel window is open, but Like you've talked about, Derek, it is a mental game. You want some insurance to the end.
Yep. What if, right? That's what I'd be thinking in my head. Why I'd want to run it as long as possible. But I'll tell you what, for Brian Dees, though, that timer in his head was up a while ago. I'm sure he's going to feel like Superman on new tires. Think of how long it's been since he was on quote-unquote new tires. Meanwhile, here's speaking of new tires and being Superman, there's Eddie Hagge. He's on the bottom of the track, and he's going to blow on by Zimmerman. And that right there, I believe, is the epitome of what new tires look like. By the way, your leader, Justin Levine, has just given away the lead.
Levine's come down pit road. Thompson has elected to stay out at least one lap longer. I think Thompson can run maybe 2 or 3 more on fuel if he wants it. But like we said, that gap was about 1.5 seconds. It's also about 1.5 seconds between Thompson and Kleinschmidt. As Hagge gets around the 34 there, that's Perkins, who's currently in third. You can see Kleinschmidt just on the right of the screen. Hagge trying to get his lap back the old-fashioned way. We'll see where he shakes out relative to Justin Levine. The gap between them was pretty large when the pit cycle started, but I think it's going to be a little bit smaller now, although Levine is going to have a slight grip advantage. Levine does go a lap down to Rick Thompson. That was Rick Thompson, the car that just left your screen at the bottom, as this is Brian Zimmerman giving up the 4th spot to truck with a little bit more long run pace in Chris Carroll.
Chris Carroll, multi-time winner of the Blazing Pedals Truck Series, and love to add another win. Remember, he started on the pole tonight, so he's trying to get himself back up front. But my wow comment, as you continue to watch Eddie Hagge or even Justin Levine or someone who's already pit here in this cycle, you watch them just power their way around the outside of these trucks, and it's just one of those pictures worth 1,000 words kind of moments of how powerful new tires are. And what I wonder, though, as we come around and watch Brian Dees, who's also on new tires, we talked about pushing this, feeling confident in the truck, right, knowing you have enough gas. But I think now we started to cross that point, Cade, where now you're staying out to your detriment. Now I wonder if you stay out much longer, are you going to have the time to benefit from those new tires and make up the ground you're losing against those who've already pitted?
Well, guess what? We are going to get the answer to your science experiment right here. Rick Thompson has pit, so has Matthew Kleinschmidt. This is about 3 laps later than Justin Levine, who was your leader. Chris Carroll has yet to pit. I don't know if he's necessarily in contention to win this one. Zimmerman's going to pit, but right in front of Kleinschmidt. Kleinschmidt coming on those fresh tires. And he's got to check up in a big way. Now Zimmerman pits from what was the 3rd position. Carroll and Allen, the only 2 who have yet to make a stop. Chris Berg is also in that group. Then it's Justin Levine, who's in a battle right now with Eddie Hagge. And we'll see where he shakes out against Rick Thompson. Here he comes. That's Kleinschmidt to the middle. Thompson on the bottom. 3 wide. Kleinschmidt's going to get it. And this is him getting his lap back.
This is him getting his lap back. This is him just kind of powering through with that red, white, and blue machine, trying to travel on around. So it's Chris Carroll, has not pit since lap 67, nor has Levi Allen, Chris Berg. Those are the last 3 left to pit. Levine, Hagge, Dees, Kleinschmidt, and Thompson will assume the top 5 once these last couple of drivers pit here. And Chris Carroll has called it out. He is pitting this time.
Looks like Rick Thompson lost a lot of ground under that pit cycle. We talked about you stay out, it could be to your detriment. He's going to have those slightly fresher tires to have the opportunity to potentially gain some ground back on Justin Levine. As we can see, Chris Carroll nearly spins it and saves it on pit entry. We'll see if that was a speeding penalty. Would shock me if it wasn't.
I don't see one.
Levi Allen pits right with him, and this is what will be effectively for the lead. Eddie Hagge goes around Justin Levine, Chris Berg leading at the moment, but this will become the top spot when Berg pits, and it goes to the driver in the 97.
I have no idea how he didn't eat those water barrels. I thought for sure Chris Carroll was just going side, T-boning those water barrels to the side of his truck. Watch this entry again. He gets it loose and wiggles it, and just about that close to eating a water barrel. So Chris Berg has now given up the lead. By the way, you see his pit timer on the top right of your screen. But think about this, Cade. Remember, our first couple of drivers, That would have been Haggy, and I think then Brian Dees have now pitted 10 laps ago. So drivers like Chris Berg or Chris Carroll are looking at a potential 10 lap difference on those tires when this race comes to a close. If it matters, that's the question, but we're going to find out not too long from now.
It looks like Chris Carroll has cycled out to about 15 seconds behind race leader Eggy Haggy, so he's going to have to be about a half second faster per lap if he wants to get in contention for this win. I don't really think that's possible. The bigger gap that I'm looking at right now is between Kleinschmidt and Heggie. That's a 5-lap difference on tires, but the time interval is only 6.5 seconds. And I think that's a little bit more manageable to make up in these next 29 laps, especially if Haggy and Levine are fighting each other. If they get side by side, do battle, and they basically burn their own tires up, it's going to give Kleinschmidt and then Rick Thompson, only half second behind him, it's going to give them the opportunity to sneak back in this one. I will say this, though, Eddie Haggy 3-lap older tires than Justin Levine, but still able to make the pass. Quite impressive, as we only have 28 to go now.
Less than 30 to go. Again, this race is flying on by here. A very quick night at the Homestead Miami Speedway. And Levine here, I saw that as we went on board. Look, that meter was climbing down. Those meters are an estimate of his RPMs based upon the speed that truck is putting out here. I want to watch him through the corner. I did find it odd that he is sort of riding behind Eddie Haggy, because Levine, while is a great driver, has a lot of fun, loves to win, typically loves to lead, but not the case here. He's having fun drafting behind Eddie Haggy. Now, is he saving gas just in case of overtime? Is he concerned he pitted too soon? I don't know, but he is definitely trying to conserve behind the leader.
You can see if you look over on the timing tower now, the gap back to Chris Carroll is down to 13.5 seconds, so he's doing what the doctor ordered and gaining a half second a lap. The gap back to Kleinschmidt has now less than 6 seconds, so he's doing a good job eating up the time as well. The question is going to be, how does traffic affect them? You see Carroll's going to have to go around the likes of William Bruton. One thing I think you pointed out there, Derek, is those guys that pitted early. You see Haggy and Dees was now about 15 laps ago. That was at the very, very tippy top end of the fuel run. That's pushing it 40 laps under green. We saw drivers struggle to get 40 laps under yellow there in stage number 2, so unless they do some serious staving, it's going to be difficult for Haggy and Dees to make it to the end of the race on gas. I think clearly they've got to know something. Clearly they've got to believe that they can pull it off, or they're betting all of their chips on a late race yellow. But if one of those two things doesn't happen, going to be in really, really rough shape. Kleinschmidt now within 5 seconds. Carroll now within 13. Keep an eye on that ticker to see how those two drivers can converge on that battle for the lead. This is a great, great battle for the third spot.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but it's sort of a different analogy. I was thinking to myself, if Justin Levine, who pitted, 3 or 4 laps later than Dees, is not confident in his fuel level, then Dees has got to be in trouble in my mind. I mean, that's what I was thinking about. The same idea, just different way of looking at it. If I was Brian Dees, I would be happy right now to let one of these drivers by, either Thompson or Kleinschmidt or both, and I would sit back and draft to see if I could save some fuel. But so far, he is confident being up front. So whether it's just he is anticipating a late race caution, he got now Rick Thompson up under his back quarter panel, or he's just decided that, his tires are dead and he's going to have to make this work, I don't know. As now he's been kind of moved out of the way. Now this could be good for him if he gets behind that truck and kind of sits there and drafts. But so far he is not really keen on doing that.
Yeah, it looked to me more like he was playing defense, got down to the bottom and tried to pinch Thompson against that white line, get that 76 truck really, really loose. And instead it sort of checked him up, got him out of the groove. And now he's opened up the inside for Kleinschmidt as well. Big tire advantage for the 59 and Rick Thompson. Actually, Kleinschmidt can't get the move done, though. He's kind of gotten stuck behind Brian Dees. They haven't been able to continue gaining ground on the race leaders. That's one of the difficulties with trying to run in traffic. Look at that. Dees does a great job running the outside and is able to keep Kleinschmidt behind him. This is intriguing the way that this is shaked out. Like, I don't know if Kleinschmidt needs to save fuel here. Maybe he's intentionally staying behind Dees, or maybe he just doesn't have the grip. I'm not sure.
Kleinschmidt pitted on lap 100 for a reference point. We said Levine was saving. Kleinschmidt pitted 2 laps later. So that would make me think Kleinschmidt should be okay. But he needs to get up to the top of this track. He needs to get up around the outside of Brian Dees. Typically, the up top is how you make passes successfully at Homestead. Can you do them on the bottom? Yeah, you can. But typically, you do them up top. You get around the outside and you sort of rip that wall. And this way, you carry all that speed up off the corners and you sort of drive away. But Kleinschmidt also almost looks happy to sit back and maybe save some fuel.
So the top 2 nose to tail, 4th and 5th nose to tail as well. The one guy who's really pushing the pace right now is Rick Thompson. He's driven away from that battle between Dees and Kleinschmidt. He's now about 3.5 seconds back of Justin Levine, so he has slashed that gap in half from what it was when the pit cycle sort of shaked out. Thompson right now on the loud pedal, he's moving forward. I think he'll have the opportunity to get there. The question is going to be, is he going to have enough fuel, and is he going to have enough grip left in those tires if he does have to push to get to the 97 and the 3? That right there is Michael Kelly. He's a little bit been a little bit slower all day on pace, but right now on fresh tires, currently 2 laps down. The second truck off the lead lap. He's been able to survive most of the attrition right here. He's going to get around the outside of Brian Dees. Dees should be happy to let him go. Kelly, a little bit of the fence. Could that open the door for Kleinschmidt if Kleinschmidt wants the position? That's the cat and mouse game we've been talking about. Kleinschmidt right now has the chance to get around Dees, but still have a drafting partner in Michael Kelly back up front. You can see Justin Levine does not want to lead. Very rare that we would say that sentence here as Brian Dees is back down pit road. I think he decided, you know what, I can't make it. Earlier I said the 2-stop strategy was out the window, but Brian Dees has clearly decided that might as well just come in, get some fuel, not have to worry about it.
I think in the case of Dees, it was all very different. He sort of made the proverbial bed the moment he didn't take tires and sort of been trying to hope for things to roll his way for a while, and none of it seemed to work out. But Brian Dees, a long pit stop there. I would have thought that would have been maybe a gas-only stop, but this 14.2 tells me it's tires, 4 tires and gas for him. And here's Chris Carroll on the track in P7. He's behind Brian Zimmerman, and they're all riding around here and just sort of waiting for something to happen if it's going to happen. 17 laps to go here at Homestead, Miami Speedway. Happy you're along for the ride here and enjoying the show. We do a thank you for being here. And Kate, this whole thing has I won't say a weird feeling to it. It just feels very, very calm, doesn't it? It just feels like there's about 19 stories just waiting to explode at any moment.
It reminds me a little bit of a volcano that has yet to erupt, right? It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's pretty, but at any moment it could go off. We're seeing Brian Dees now. He's going to be on fresh tires, first truck 1 lap down. He's going to be pushing hard to try to get back on the lead lap in case a late race yellow does come out. And I want to point out, Brian Dees, I think he pitted with 41 laps to go.
Did.
Everybody else was 40 or less. So just because Dees can't make it doesn't say anything about those other guys. But if he knew for a fact that he wasn't going to get it, then you got to imagine, you know, I think Eddie Hagee came in with exactly 40. It might have been one of those two, Levine or Hagee, came in with exactly 40. Those drivers we know have got to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be much more close than we thought for some drivers. We'll wait and see here. But, you know, you called it volcano weather. I think us Midwesterners kind of refer to this as tornado weather, right? Just that very calm, kind of eerie sky, just very quiet. And then it can just erupt or it can just break loose at any moment. I think when the moment that next pit stop happens, whether it be maybe a Levine or a Kleinschmidt or a Rick Thompson, if they do need to pit, I think that will send shockwaves up and down the field.
It will, but the other thing that could happen is Rick Thompson could catch those leaders. It's now within 2 seconds. Chris Carroll, by the way, is within 7, 14 laps to go, means that he's hitting that, you know, half second per lap. He's hitting that mark right on the number. Here he is looking to the inside of John Perkins, for the 5th position. Chris Carroll, earlier I thought he was out of it. He got himself behind a little bit on strategy after starting from the pole, looking so good during the first stage. But now he's in a position where he is making a charge toward the front. If he can be within 6 seconds here at the conclusion of this stage, if he can get ahead of John Perkins, he's going to be in a decent spot to do that. You can see on the right side of your screen there, but we have just Baker's dozen of laps to go here. There's going to be plenty more action on Green Flag TV. The High Tide Racing League comes at you tomorrow night. They're followed up on Tuesday by the Silver Fox Racing League. Some great short track action there. Another truck series on Wednesday with the Premier Sim Racing coming to you from Kentucky. And how about the Speed Cup Series? Trying out the Qualcomm circuit out at Coronado. Produced a pretty great race in real life. We'll see if they can mirror that in the sim. And then on Saturday, it's going to be the 6 hours of Interlagos there for the FTR Alameda Racing Academy series. None of those races are going to be races that you want to miss, so stay tuned in here on Green Flag TV throughout the week as we bring you all of the racing action from all corners of iRacing.
Yeah, that Kentucky race on Wednesday night, we're going to crown a champion for that season ender. It's going to be a tight battle, 10 points separating Jacob Malone and Steve Baker. A lot of leagues getting ready for a playoff season, so lots of cool stuff happening. By the way, if you want to get your league or special event broadcasted, you can find out how by heading to www.greenflag.tv, and you can get more information, or you can contact us there. Now just 11 laps to go, and I just, in my head, Kate, I can't help but wonder when that next shoe drops, right? It just feels like something is going to happen here. I don't think everyone is maybe as okay as we thought they were. Whether it be Levine pits, whether it be Kleinschmidt pits, whether it be something happens and it just resets the whole strategy, I don't know. But I can't imagine these next 10 laps being as calm and cool and collected as they've been for the past 10.
Well, I think the first shoe is going to hit right here. This is going to be 9 laps to go, and Rick Thompson is just about there. He has caught the top 2. He's close enough that he could make a move if he wants it, and that's going to force them to decide, do we push or do we keep sitting in line? That's Brian Dees right now, who is getting his lap back the hard way, so he's going to pass them on the inside, and he should drive away. That other truck up there, Michael Kelly, he's going to continue to drive away as well on fresh tires. So no lap traffic to deal with. Coming to 8 laps to go. Thompson is there. Does Levine play defense? Does he try to pass Hagee? What happens here? This, I think, is the moment that's going to decide. And if they get into an intense battle and lose a lot of time, it could bring other trucks into it as well. A lot going on now here. It's the dominoes are starting to fall.
Well, I think when Levine feels comfortable passing will tell us a lot about how much he saved or how good he is on the save, because if you're tight on field, the last thing you want to do is pass Hagee before like 1 or 2 to go. You don't want to burn more field than you have to. But meanwhile, on the bottom, here's Rick Thompson. He must be good because he's now gonna almost make contact with Levine. They're all, I think, at least the back 2, the second and third are saving, and Rick Thompson side by side with Levine, and now he's gonna put back in line.
Look to the bottom again. I want to say Thompson is a little bit better on fuel, but still not guaranteed. You're going to have to do a little bit of saving while going quick. That's something that's hard to do, and I think that's all the advantage to Chris Kill right now. He might be the only guy who doesn't have to save. Maybe Chris Berg might also be in that category because those were the last 2 on the pit road.
Levi Allen as well in that group who pitted a 104.
But everybody other than those 3 right now is a little bit scared. How about that Miguel Gomez-Gaudet? He pit within 40 laps to go, and he is now on pit road. Looks like fearing that he's not going to be able to make it to the end. He got close, right? He waited to see if we were going to get a yellow. He waited to see if something was going to happen. How about this? Eddie Hagee pulls all the way to the bottom. He might not want to lead. Is he pitting?
Is he pitting from the access road? That's the weirder part. Unless he's out of fuel, why would you take the access road unless you don't know better? With all due respect, Kate, that's going to cost you some time on track. And to come in here a little hot, gets it woed up for pit road, and down in the pit box, he's an early pitter here. Meanwhile, up front, Kleinschmidt's going to make the get past, pardon me. And that's going to be from Chris Carroll. You said Carroll, one of the drivers who might be okay. He pit a 104. He is 3 laps later then Levine and Thompson.
And remember, Hagee led for the majority of this fuel stint here. Levine kind of forced him to be in front, and that may have burned the extra fuel from Hagee. Can't imagine it would have burned an extra, I don't know, 5 laps of fuel though. Maybe 1 or 2, but now Levine doesn't have the help. Rick Thompson has kind of backed off, so I don't know if that means that he needs to save more fuel or if his tires are just dead. We'll see what the story is for Rick Thompson. The next car behind them is Gomez Gaudet. He is on fresh tires, 2 laps down, so he should knife through them pretty quickly. Then the truck behind them is Chris Carroll. So Carroll, I don't want to say he's within striking distance, but he's at least on the screen. 3 laps to go, though. Justin Levine trying to hang on. He went from the back to win stage 2, and now trying to cap off the evening with another win on the season.
Yeah, 2.5 seconds back to Chris Carroll is about the time. You see it there on your screen. And meanwhile, back here, this is the battle with Matthew Kleinschmidt's happening with Levi Allen. Levi Allen, the driver who pitted on 104. So if, in fact, there are some fuel shortage problems, Levi Allen probably picks up a couple spots here as well. Driving on the bottom of the track here. Going to power on around Kleinschmidt. But now, you got to think, if you're Justin Levine, you might be the person most frustrated by the Eddie Hagee pit stop, by the way, because he was your drafting buddy. He was the one kind of helping you, save fuel. So now for Justin Levine, he's got to be thinking, you got to be one eye on the windshield and one eye on that gas meter. Now, some drivers want to stare at it, Cade. They want to know exactly corner by corner where that gas mileage is. Other drivers, they want to put their hand or whatever over top of that meter. They don't want to know at this point and say, hey, listen, I'm just going to go race, and either it's going to work or it's not. It doesn't matter. White flag is out, Cade. One more time around for Justin Levine.
Yeah, and he isn't saving anymore. I think he's realized that he's good to the end. Knew it when Hagee pulled off that he was going to have the gas. As I want to say, something's happened to Levi Allen. He might be out. So does Justin Levine have enough fuel to make it to the end as they come around turn number 4? He's still able to stay in the throttle. He's going to clear Rick Thompson, and Justin Levine, 3rd win on the season. It comes in just his 6th start.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful work by Levine. Saved enough fuel to have the power at the end to pull away when he needed to.
The rest of the field comes across. Kleinschmidt and Allen able to hang on 4 top 5s. Not exactly sure what went wrong with the 79. John Perkins, Brian Zimmerman, Chris Berg, Brad Collins, and William Bruton. How about all them able to stretch the fuel there after that final stage? Tested the driver's ability to think into the future, put themselves in the best position possible, and Justin Levine played the strategy game perfectly. Was able to get the win. It'd be a little cheeky if he did.
Let's see how long this goes. I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like, we played this whole fuel game, and now you have enough gas for burnouts. I don't know.
But he's going to park it right in there with, I guess, his teammates. Thompson and Carroll have also come out and parked with him. I don't know if that's the podium or...
That's the podium. Yep,
that's a decent-looking camera shot, though. I wish the 3 would back up and get in line with them. I don't know if I've got a little bit of OCD or something. I'm going to get dizzy if I keep looking at this. But anyways, we're going to have a moment to take a look at our final results. Of course, it was Levine beating Thompson to the line. Chris Carroll wasn't able to quite mount the charge at the end, but still able to regain the point lead. Matthew Kleinschmidt, Levi Allen, top 5. How about John Perkins in the 6th spot? Brian Zimmerman, P7. Chris Berg comes back for P8. Brad Collins hangs on for 9th. And William Bruton rounds out the day in the 10th position.
Move back into P11. That's where you'll find Samuel Baumgarten, with P12 being Brian Dees. That's the last car in the lead lap. 1 lap down was Michael Kelly, and then from here it's 2 or more laps down. Miguel Gomez Godet, Earl Hall, Noah Van Hoot. 5 laps down is Eddie Hagee, who had those troubles towards the end of the heat. In fact, he never came back on track after the last pit stop. Mark Arthur, Scotty Stevens, and Dalton Kilroy round out your top 20.
Kilroy had those issues, was involved in the same crash as Mike Massengill and Tanner Marr, 21st and 22nd. Kyle Wellman, a wreck, knocked him out of the race in 23rd. Cody Gibson called it a day after just 38 laps. And then Logan Wilson, Trevor Harmon were the other two drivers who did not take the green flag. There we go. We've gotten them lined up on the front stretch now. And we are going to get to talk to your top three. This is going to be your short stop post-race. Excuse me, this is the Flying Pig Tavern post-race show. It's a small local pizza tavern offering some made-to-order pizzas and also offering our interview with our winner, Justin Levine. Welcome to the booth. You've done it for the third time this season. How does this one feel?
Oh, it feels great, especially with the fuel strategy. I just was hoping, keep my fingers crossed, it was going to work out.
And it did work out. It seemed like there was a lot going on. You had the fuel, you had the tires, the threat of another yellow. What started going through your mind when you saw Rick Thompson pull up in your mirror there?
Basically, I knew Eddie was short. Eddie pitted, I think, 3 or 4 laps before I did, and I was going to be right on the money. So I was hoping that I can stay behind Eddie the whole time, and just whatever his pace was, that's what it was going to be. And then watching, like you said, Ricky closing that gap, I just had to be patient and sit and wait and be like, all right, is he going to come by and blow our doors off, and then I'm going to just ride behind Ricky? Or are we going to have enough pace to hold him back? And I think either Ricky ran us down and had to save by the time he caught us, or maybe he burnt the stuff up. I don't know what the case was, but him not being able to pressure me and push my pace, I just ran my race and it worked out perfectly.
Well, you did a good job there in the second half, but you also did a really good job in those first couple of stages, working your way from the back. How difficult was it out there to pass when the sun was still up?
Always is. This track with the multi-grooves, just being on a fixed setup, you basically have 2 options. Either drive as hard as you can and get up front and use the clean air and hope for a caution or the stage to fall, or you have to be very patient and let everybody else burn up their stuff and slowly pick them off. And I decided to take the second route. I think I got like either 9th or 10th for the first stage, and then I stayed out. Or, I'm sorry, I didn't say it. I didn't take tires, trying to save a set for later. God forbid there was a late caution. And we got a caution like 10 laps into that stage, 20 laps into stage 2. And as soon as I put the second set on, it was like a cheat code.
Well, there you have it. Came from the back not once but twice to get the win here at Homestead. Any shout-outs you got to give us?
Of course, you guys in the booth, can't wait to go back and watch the broadcast. You guys did such a great job. Mark and everybody, all the admins that put it on, and of course all the viewers tuning in.
We appreciate those kind words. Go celebrate this one.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And that's your winner, Justin Levine. Now we're going to talk to the guy who came up just short. Standing by with Derek, we got Rick Thompson.
Rick, incredible P2 run tonight. We saw lots of strategies play out across tonight here as you brought that truck home in P2. So first off, I have to ask the question, how much gas was left in the truck when you came across the line?
So unfortunately, I actually saved a little too much. I actually had like maybe a lap and a half still left in the tank.
Wow. Okay.
And because I was clutching both of the stints on that last stage, I thought for sure that Justin was going to run out, or I would have pushed harder to get up there. But by the time I figured out, he's probably going to make it, was like 2 to go, and that's when I started like pressing, and by then he'd already gotten a little bit away from me. I think he started going a couple laps before that, and by the time, like I said, I noticed it was too late. So I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm in second tonight.
Early in the race, you had a little bit of contact with Kyle Wellman, a moment that we thought may have possibly done some real damage to your truck. It appeared not to be the case, but from your perspective, what happened in that incident?
I think he just sent it, and he was, I think he didn't like that I got around him the lap before, or maybe he just thought he was faster and should have been in front of me, and he messed up the entry on the turn before that, so I got around him, and then he just kind of sent it into the corner and a little harder than I, had been doing. And I was there, so when he popped me in the butt, I was like, well, I guess, I held on to it. Thankfully, didn't get in the wall or anything, but then like literally right after that is when I think he lost it out of the corner and took out somebody else. I don't know who it was, but I think he was done that after the night after that.
Well, we move from a very wide, a very long 1.5-mile track at Homestead next week, moving over to New Hampshire, a very fast, short track. What's your outlook for 1 week from tonight?
I love New Hampshire. It's like one of my favorite tracks. So, like, if I'm able to make it next week, then I think I'll be competitive. I really like flat tracks and short tracks, stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it if I can make it for sure.
Buddy, well, listen, it's a pleasure watching your race. Anyone you want to say hello to or give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to definitely shout out to my wife. She lets me come down and race here, take time away from her, and so I certainly appreciate that. I have a couple of friends visiting from out of town, Ron and Emily. They both were kind enough to let me step away from them for a little bit to come down here and race this week as well. I also want to shout out the league sponsors, the Flying Pig Tavern, Ohio and Indiana Roofing, Shortstop Italian Restaurant, Blazing Pedals, and then of course you guys, Green Flag Racing, Green Flag TV. I always go back and watch the broadcasts. And you guys always do a great job, so I really appreciate you guys broadcasting the race tonight. Hopefully we give you guys a good show.
Yeah, we appreciate you as well. Congrats on P2, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Rick Thompson coming home P2, and we'll quickly transition into the driver who, at one point, I'm pretty sure I heard him say over top of the driver radio, please tell them we turned the lights on. Chris Carroll, congrats on P3.
Thank you, sir. A bit of a long night out there, but yeah, I said, Derek Watson, turn on those lights. It's getting dark in here. I figured you were on the switch there.
I wish if I was on the switch, those things would have been warmed up and ready back at like this race start, just to make sure there was no claim. There's no need to shorten the electric bill, you know.
10-4 driver.
So a good run tonight. You started up on the pole, so you had a very good start tonight. Looking back, hindsight's always 20/20. Is there anything you could have done different tonight to put yourself in first instead of third?
I think a couple of things. I think we miscalculated fuel somewhere. I didn't think those guys could make it from there, and it sounds like they made it pretty comfortable. Yeah, I mean, I think I could have pitted maybe a couple laps before, knowing that we had a little more fuel in the tank. I think there's a few things I could have done different now, but at the time we thought those guys were going to be really tight and we could push them. And our calculations in practice were 35 or 37 saving fuel. And we figured the track got faster with the nighttime coming, so we figured they weren't going to make it. And to be honest, where I pitted, I could run the truck as hard as I wanted to on the last run, and I was still 3 laps to the good. So we miscalculated somewhere, but still a good finish, still a good night. You know, once we got the race going, long runs, it's pretty fun in this league.
So an incredible season overall for you. You know, we're having a really great season. We'll move ahead next week to New Hampshire. What's your outlook for the short track next week?
Well, I'm a short tracker. I love any short track except Oxford on here. Maybe Concord too. It's pretty stinky, but I like the short tracks. I expect to try and go for the win and hopefully stay out of trouble there. There's a lot of juking and jiving in New Hampshire that happens, and you got to try and it's a track position race, so we'll try and stay up front.
So does that mean if all goes your way and some things fall in the correct order, you're stoked that the championship finale is at Richmond?
I didn't know the championship finale was at Richmond. I thought we voted on that after, but any short track, I'm stoked to go to. I've been short tracking for a long time, so if it's Richmond, I'm okay with that, Derek.
Fair enough. Well, listen, it's a pleasure watching you race. Anyone you want to say hello to or give a shout out to?
Yeah, I got to thank all the admins at Blazing Pedals here. They do a good job. This league is run really well. Gives us a platform to do what we love to do. I always got to thank Brian Zerman. He sponsors me for any race I want to go in, usafirearms.com. If you got firearms to buy from him. Got to thank Tanner Marr. He got me into all this league racing and TV stuff and all the fun I have on here thanks to him. And got to thank my friends and family out there watching. There's lots of them. This list gets longer every week. I got to thank Blackhawk Motorsports and all my teammates there, and Pit Lizard Performance, and everybody that makes this thing run.
And to get you like a whiteboard and a Sharpie to keep adding the things there. Well, Chris, great job tonight, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, sir. Thank you for the great interview and broadcast.
You're welcome. Thank you as well. That's Chris Carroll and then Cade. That will wrap up our top 3 interviews for the evening.
That's right, and that was the Flying Pig post-race show, not the shortstop post-race show. But next week, these guys get an off week. They get a little bit of a break before we head all the way up to the Granite State to race around New Hampshire. And then after that, it is going to be a sprint to the chase. Before we do that, any closing thoughts, Derek?
A great night of racing, a track that provided some really awesome moments, a track that had to be driven by the drivers, provided just an amazing night all night long.
It sure was. Well, we thank you all for tuning in and watching here live on Green Flying TV. Please join us a couple of weeks from now as we continue to bring you all the action of the Blazing Pedals League. From Dustin Ollis, Derek Watson, and myself, Cade Corbin, thank you all for tuning in and enjoy your evening.